iZombie Season 2, Episode 5, Love and Basketball. This was a really good episode because there were a couple of things that really stood out in this one, and I think the biggest thing for me that stood out was Clive's moment of kind of attacking the young boy's father, because clearly there's something in his past where he dealt with probably being abused himself, and so he took a very interesting step towards basically defending this young kid. And I thought that was a very interesting moment for his character because we've never really seen too much of Clive's backstory or any sort of, over expression of any sort of emotion. Really, it's always he's slightly sarcastic or he's weirded out by Liv. And that's pretty much it. So in this episode, when he did that, and it showed in that very first scene, like once Liv got the visions, which they were working double time on the visions when she was talking with the guy, and she got one vision after the other. I was like, man, they're making up for the last episode with no visions in it. After, that scene when she told him and he was looking at the guy, I was like, this is definitely going to lead to something. And it certainly does. Like, he just beat that guy up. And he took off. And so far, nothing has happened. It could easily come up in the next episode, or maybe even the one after. But that was very interesting to see. It was very shocking to see because this is, it's Clive, like I said. We just see sarcastic, solve the case and, keep on keeping on type of Clive. And this was a very different side of his character that I personally enjoyed seeing because it showed that, even though it didn't go into detail, it obviously showed that that's a part of his past where he's either been abused himself or maybe he has siblings that were or something like that. And he just knows, how bad that can be on a young kid. So I love that portion. As small as it was, that's definitely one of my favorite moments of this episode. He had another great moment, which I believe was the final scene, where he actually ends up talking to former Captain Suzuki's wife, and she talks about how she did a little digging after he mentioned the suicide stuff, and he gets his first really huge lead. He finds the brain, or she found the brain, and so now he has it. And I don't know what that's going to lead to. I knew that Clive was the one where it's okay, he's the one who's kind of been kept out of the loop, even through all the insanity in the last season where every one of the other main characters now knows about zombies. He's really the only main character that's still outside of the loop, and he's doing his investigations. He's going to end up finding Blaine, I have to assume, at some point, because he still never found him. It's we just have this random name, and we still don't know what it means. So they haven't found Blaine. He, of course, can't really get any info off of Major, because he's trying to keep himself, innocent. So now he has this really big lead. I don't know how that's going to play, if he's going to say anything to Liv or if he's going to keep that between him and the new woman that's come in. I can't remember her name, but obviously she's going to end up being very important this season, if not for the rest of the series. So it's probably going to end up being the two of them doing their own investigations. And I don't know if that's going to end up being good or bad for them. I'm sure Clive will be fine, but she could easily get killed or just turned into a zombie. So I don't know how this is going to play out for her character. For Clive, it's alright, I'm sure that'll be fine. He's going to just be Clive, but he's going to know some stuff by the end of this season for sure. And I'm really looking forward to that because once things started up, after the finale of the last season, it was alright, he knows things are weird. Suzuki put all the stuff, about, he put Blaine's name up there. And they found, I believe that was mentioned in this episode, they found, hair follicles or something like that of the astronaut that went missing in the last season. So he got, two pretty important things. It's okay, this stuff is happening. And it was at the MeatCute, which is where we have this mysterious Blaine character. This is where Major may or may not have been, which, of course, we know he was, but Clive is going to have to figure out how to prove that he was there. And I just don't know how things are going to play out, but I'm really excited for it because I didn't think they'd take such a big leap in this episode because he already got the little clue in the beginning, and I was oh, that's pretty cool. He now has a nice new little hint to show hey, this is definitely happening for you, so don't worry, you're not just coming up with theories out of nowhere. You definitely have something. And then he got an even bigger hint at the end with the actual brain. So I was like, this is really awesome. Like, they gave him two really huge clues to lead him towards Blaine and Major and kind of everything that was going on at the MeatCute. So I love that stuff for sure. The main story was definitely fun. Liv being like the basketball coach all of a sudden and being like very inspirational. All the pep talks and stuff with Major, which came after them making out and all that stuff. And that was an interesting part of this episode as well. And they start off, they're making out and stuff, and so they're trying to figure out exactly how things may or may not transfer as far as turning back into a zombie through sex or just making out and him having like cuts and stuff on his mouth. So they went through an interesting sort of trajectory in this episode. It was like they're making out at the beginning. Liv kind of stops things, and it's like, I don't want you to turn back into a zombie because you don't want to be a zombie, so let's be careful with that. Let's just be friends. And then they do that pretty much the whole episode until the end, and Major's like, I don't want to just be friends, and he officially says that he wants to be with Liv again. So that I thought was actually nice. I thought that was pretty cool because he went full circle. It was like he was being shunned, then she was being shunned because he was just like all messed up with the zombie stuff, and then of course the utopium thing, and then they make out after he decides that he's going to get back to being a normal human being who's not just, losing his mind over killing the zombies and stuff, which he makes the decision not to do it in this episode, and they talk about the statistics and all that stuff. That's obviously going to come back to bite him. They introduced that a little bit in here, and it's definitely going to play a big part. It's going to mean something for sure. And I don't know how he's going to get away with it. He can't obviously just come back and say, like, sorry, 8 more people or even like 3 more people, no zombies, because they would just add on to like their list of the 8 names he cleared off before, and it's like, oh, now you're going up to like, almost 20 people or something, and none of them are zombies. It's going to bite him in the butt. So I'm not sure how he's going to continue to play that off or how it's going to work out. But for now, he got away with it in this one episode, but he's not going to be able to do that continuously. So they're either going to attack him or they're going to go straight for Liv. And they may or may not do that simply because they need her blood anyway, which we also get introduced to. We got to see yet another really full-on, zombie, like generic zombie, I guess. And the scientist, she mentions like, oh, we need blood of a coherent zombie. So, they get the little drop, and we'll see where that takes things as far as random science or whatever they're going to be doing with that, which probably won't end up being anything good. But we're going to see where that takes things. They have Liv's blood. They're going to see, they might figure out certain powers that they haven't even introduced yet. I kind of doubt that would happen, but I guess you never really know. Like, we really don't know everything about, the zombies, technically. We assume we do, and we might, but you never know what they could easily add in there. It could be like some random thing. It might not exactly be like the visions and stuff where they eat the brains, but it could be something else. It could be anything, really, as far as zombies go. Who knows? There are people that died and then came back to life. You can come up with some stuff, and I'll probably be able to believe it. It won't be that hard to comprehend. So they have that. We have Liv, who's like in the middle of all this craziness. So the stuff with Major not killing off zombies once again, with that having been the threat that got him into it to begin with, who knows how it'll take place. But I'm looking forward to it. Definitely a fun episode. Loved Liv in this one once again. This season's been really consistent with how silly things have been. A bit more serious because she was doing like the pep talk stuff, and it was mostly about Major, so it was like, for the most part, aside from when she talked to Clive, which that was one of the funniest in this episode, when she's talking about the Knicks, and he was like, I caught you, putting like paper clips in this because you thought it was for knickknacks. That was like one of my favorite lines this whole episode, because I just thought that was just unbelievably hilarious. Like, that doesn't even make sense. And it was like for knickknacks. I was like, I thought that was just really good writing, and that was really funny. So I love that line. Most of it, aside from that, was actually fairly serious because it was kind of all directed towards Major and him, getting back up on his feet and not doing utopium anymore, and getting back to kind of what he was in the first season, where he's helping young kids, and so now he's helping these kids as a coach for this basketball team, which he had to constantly do because the same two kids kept elbowing. One kid kept elbowing the other, so over and over again he kept dealing with that. But it was fun. I like this episode for sure. Can't wait to see how quickly they progress Clive's little side story where he's working on finding Blaine and figuring out what Major had to do with this and what course of action he's really going to take once he finds out like this isn't exactly in the realm of normal law. It's zombies and insanity. So we'll see how it all plays out. Definitely another fun episode this week. But of course, I want to know what you guys thought. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And with Clive getting, these two big hints in this episode, you got two really large clues. I don't know what in the world he's going to do with the brain. Like, I can't even really think of where he'd take that. He'd have to take it to someone. And I would assume he's going to end up taking it to Liv and Ravi. But I want to know where you guys think that's going to go. Of course, we know he's going to be working with a woman that kind of just joined the office. So, of course, they're going to end up being together. They'll probably end up being a couple because based on how they have the promo for the next episode, it seems like they're kind of doing a double date thing. So who knows how that's going to play out. But I'm sure that's kind of where they're headed for sure with Clive and this woman, who also had a funny scene when he was in the office and she's doing like the elevator stuff. That was making me laugh. It was so simple, but it was just silly. Like they're cops and it's supposed to be so professional and she's just like being really silly and messing with him. And she knows he's getting like chewed out by the captain. And she's just like, let me mess with him and do the elevator thing and walking down the stairs and rowing a boat. And it was just really funny because they should be so much more serious, but they definitely aren't. So I really like her character. Actually, I think she's really funny. And she definitely helps Clive kind of look into certain things. And she knows, like the DNA thing, giving him the hint and stuff like that. So I really like her character. But in all, I want to know where you guys think they're going to take Clive's story, because now he's got a pretty big hint with the brain, and I don't know if that was ever like reported, like when they did that whole thing in the last season where Major went up against the Candyman and the cop showed up, and unfortunately that did not work out for Major. That was always the devastating moment to me in the last season, and I was like, he finally got this guy, and he's like, it's a pig brain, and I'm like, oh man. I couldn't confirm or deny that, but I would have tested it though, because the cops were like, all right, you go ahead, but I probably as a cop would have been like, I do have to check this out. Like, I don't know, but either way, I'm looking forward to whatever they're gonna do with Clive's story. But like I said, I want to know what you guys think, and of course, what you guys thought about this episode as a whole. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.